Our first speaker, Stuart, is an experienced AI R&D engineer with over 20 years of expertise applying AI in real time and human-in-the-loop systems across entertainment, healthcare, IoT, and now education. And you may recognize his work as the co-inventor of the Wii Motion Plus and the mind behind the gesture recognition solutions for Wii and PlayStation Move platforms, technology that made gaming more interactive and engaging. Beyond his career, Stuart is a dedicated public school activist and a father who humorously calls his parenting applied real-time reinforcement learning. Today, he's here to share his insights on how AI can help create equitable educational opportunities for all students. Okay, please welcome Stuart.
Wake you up, we got a little school board politics, get the blood circulating. So attention is what we need, and it's really, I mean, if we think about what are the design affordances that AI is providing us, I mean, one of the things it's providing is really attention, right? Artificial attention. And so, the opportunities where we can use that in the school. And, but why do we need it in the first place? Whether the, I really want to solve practical problems and, help things out. So, a while ago, I was, working with my son, and he's, I'm finding he's falling behind in school. And so, I spent a little bit of time coding up some AI applications to help him with his writing. And so, that's kind of the genesis of my company, but now, I'm sort of thinking a little bit more broadly about what are the needs of school boards and so on. So, I've worked in, I've had really fun career working all sorts of cool AI stuff for quite a long time. And, I've worked in, quite recently in different types of chatbots for the smart home and in healthcare. And but it's really what's driving me at the moment is sort of the needs of my son, and actually more broadly what's going on in our school district, so getting into school board politics a little bit, as a parent, I started out in Soma. We as a lot of parents do, we looked around and looked at our options, and it's like, well, schools in San Francisco, particularly on the east side of the city. Well, not so great. So, we looked around and we made choices. And, we looked at, the outcomes of, not just San Francisco, but California generally, and what's happening in our public schools. And we see, enormous differences in outcomes depending upon which demographics you're coming from. And it's really quite a thing when you start looking at it. So, we moved to Bellevue. It was one of the best school districts in Washington. COVID happened. There was a lot of public schools closed and school closures, and then what we were facing at that point, is, essentially, choices about, which schools are going to keep open, which ones are going to close, and, one of the things that's coming up is, what are the choices that we make? And for me, one thing it made pretty clear is, what are the, what are the trade-offs and why are people choosing, one school or another school? And, what does that mean for AI as well? And really what we're looking for is, is different types of unmet needs. When we're just making choices for, to optimize things for our kids. But, those choices have, pretty serious consequences. The parents who can make choices and the parents who can't or didn't make choices. And so, you can look at, preschool. Preschool's kind of optional. You can pay for it in some places. You can choose homeschooling, private school tuition, and, if you're you can push your kids to get into advanced learning, and these are all choices that you can make. And as a parent, but when we're making those choices, one of the things that's happening is essentially filtering different types of demographics. That's naturally what comes out of just making any kinds of choices. Different types of people make different types of choices depending upon their needs. And and in particular for public schools, they're very often left with a lot of kids with, greater needs. And one of the things that happened in our school district is, what we're seeing is, essentially a language school, displacing, a general ed school. So, people are really, kind of getting, there's a lot of friction being caused. But essentially, what are we doing? We're kind of looking to, different groups of people looking to optimize what they need for themselves. One of the reasons it's kind of a difficult conversation for public schools is we are really some of the schools, we're having, particular demographics, and those schools perform really well, right? But, in the other schools, they have, different kinds of demographics, and, their ratings aren't so good, and actually quite a lot bit more expensive, if you have a lot more, special ed kids in your school, there's all sorts of, costs that come with those. And so, in the public debate, it makes things very difficult, but, one thing that's very important to know, if all we're doing at some point is separating out, different parts of the community, have we really improved things? And, well, the answer is, well, yeah, yes and no, right? So, so let's dig into that a little bit more. But what are we doing as a family? If you go to a particular type of school, what you're doing is making personal choices about what it is that you want for your kid, right? You have needs, and you're looking to satisfy the needs for your kid and provide opportunity for your kids. And there's one thing that I get very frustrated with public schools is I don't see it really studied, right? When families are choosing to opt out of public schools, we should think about why it is. Do we have kids whose needs aren't being met? And we can put a value. What does that cost, right? So there's families, if you go to a private school, that costs $13,000 a year on average across the US. That's a big commitment. That's a lot of money. You've got to think about that. And so, one of the questions for the public schools is, what can we learn from this? Can we change? Can we identify what types of needs aren't being met? And, avoid some of these sorts of equity problems. And again, the thing that's really important to remember, if you want to go to private school, you can choose to do that, but, there's a lot of families who cannot, right? So, it's great to have choices, but very often a lot of choices are not available to everyone. So, really, what are we optimizing for? What are we looking for? Very recently, COVID closures. We have needs for, wanting to have a particular language taught in your family. But so research generally around this is a little tricky. I mean, it's actually quite hard to find convincing research about, does, let's say, learning a second language really help? You have a lot of confounders in the research. Just having that choice puts you in a different demographic of families that didn't choose to want to learn a second language. But there is one piece of research I think is very widely cited, and there's a randomized control study. One of the things that people look for, are getting from some types of private school is, very much like smaller classes, for example. And there's good research of control studies that, with some replication issues, that smaller class sizes help. And in that case, actually, one of the things you're really getting is attention for your kids. There's this more teacher attention. Okay, so what's all this got to do with that? It's a lot of school board politics, right? So people are upset. So so my interest, is essentially building applications to solve needs for kids, and so for me, it's started out building a writing application for my son. His writings, are really not so great. But, as a parent, I can't sit down with him. I can't lean over his shoulder and try and help him. He rejects that kind of help. But I give the same types of problems, through an app. It's great. And actually, this is kind of an interesting problem, for AI as well. Good character recognition here is not really the same thing as providing good writing feedback. You don't want it to be too good. If your shapes are kind of hard to read, you want to encourage the kid to go back and fix it. So that's really, kind of where I'm starting. But, just so stepping out a bit, what can we do? So here, really what I'm trying to do is provide a particular type of attention for my kid, to help him learn to write better, particularly just form letters and fix his spelling. But in K through 5, we have all sorts of huge ranges of needs for education in the kids. There's, kids who are, kind of late bloomers, and there are kids who have hearing difficulties, kids with ADHD, just like every kind of, behavioral problem, you'll find it in schools. And, different types, and we have kids with, where English is their second language, for example. Oh, sorry, the English language learners, and, So, when the kids' needs aren't being met, oftentimes what happens is, they're very often stuck waiting for help in the classroom, right? And it takes me back to, the times I've tried to learn a language, let's say, as an adult. So people are asking me to talk in a language that I'm learning, and it's like, I don't know the answer, right? And it's, as a kid, what does that mean for you? You're shrinking inside, and it's hugely demoralizing and confidence sucking, right? When you're stuck and you can't get help. And in the context of public schools, we have like 24 kids in our elementary school classes. So, if every kid wants some help, that's just, if you need a minute of help, that's 30 minutes you have to wait for another session with the teacher. And there are things that teachers do to try and help and mitigate that, but essentially, the teacher's attention to the kids is a premium. This is a big problem, I think. So in very practical terms, my son has a friend, who left public school this year, right? So he has ADHD, and the class is just is loud for him, right? So he feels overwhelmed, and he just can't concentrate on things he needs to do. So he becomes isolated. He's in need of the teacher's attention to get him back on track. And that family, they left public school and went to private school. And when he went to private school, the story he's telling his mom is, now he feels safe, right? It's not that he was bullied in school. It's just that, it's just too overwhelming for him, right? So, one thing we could have done for that kid is to provide, sort of a more isolated environment for him for learning. You can put on some headphones, you can cut out noise, and allow them to focus, right? Space for quiet and calm in the school, and that's what that particular kid needs. But generally, what type of feedback and interactions with the AI can we provide in those cases? Are we just getting them to read a book? I think really what I want is to be able to use the AI to encourage so learning in the sense of providing production and providing evidence of learning. So we're asking the kids to do stuff, and so if you're explaining things, you're really asking the kid to explain it back to you and explain what you think the answer is. And with AI, now you can do those types of things. You can kind of attend to the individual's misunderstandings. You can provide encouragement. You can reframe questions in a simpler way. You can provide analogies, and all this is done on the fly. And this is very often the type of response you get from the kids, like I don't know, right? To a teacher's question. So teachers slows it down a little bit, makes it simpler, and these things that you can do that. And the important thing is if the kid doesn't know, you don't let them be stuck, right? So you're always providing attention and help. So let me give you another example where things that we can do in public schools. So we have a lot of non-English speakers in our school district. We have a lot of people come for to work on visas, and sometimes in their family, they talk their own language in the family. But when it gets to public school, we drop those kids off, and then it's up to the teachers to bring those kids up to speed, and typically in English, right? So the choices for this family are, you could send that kid to a private school, or you could suffer with a little bit of learning loss in public school, or you can take the types of questions that we're dealing with. Let's say we're working on a math class, you can just translate those, right? And there's no reason why that kid can't be working for some period of time in their own language. So again, you can provide encouragement, immediate feedback. It's not really a problem, I think, or it shouldn't be a problem. And you can think about advanced learning as well. There's some kids, again, in our own class, they're way ahead of the other kids. And those kids, again, if they're not getting their needs met and they deserve, should be in advanced placement, let's say, advanced learning, well, there are consequences for moving that kid from one school to another school, right? You end up with schools that are very just focused on that one thing, and the application processes for advanced learning classes are a little controversial in school districts. Either you get in or you don't, and then there's no gradient, and it's a very all or nothing type of situation for kids, and and that's it's maybe great for the kids who got into advanced learning. It's not so great for the kids who just maybe missed it. And, a little bit of extra help, could be, improving. And there's lots of examples of kids, just start late and they pick up later. And then, well, you didn't get into advanced learning, you're not getting in, but it doesn't need to be that way. So, if you can provide ways of, in the class, providing an individual, attention for those kids, then you should be able to do that. So let's skip over a lot of this. I think I'm actually pretty much done. So, just to summarize, we're all seeking, different types of opportunity for our kids. And, the lack of access to opportunity is, are really failures for our children, right? So, attention needs in education is, is an opportunity for AI. It's really I think one of the biggest design affordances that we provide. And there's lots of things, there's speech and, being able to ask questions and those types of things. But in particular, providing attention and different types of attention, asking questions, providing feedback. These are all great for publication, for education. So, you might get the impression that I'm dunking on public schools here. The one thing I'd say about public schools in general, they really have to deal with a lot of problems. And so, if you find your public school teacher, give them a hug.